Hello, hello. Welcome back to the podcast. It's your girl, Kamie Crawford. And today we have Anna Kai in the Mother Studio to read you your rights about dating. She's a content creator and host of the Brutally Anna podcast. Anna, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I love your content. And so do my sisters. I have 5 sisters, but one of them sent me your TikTok one time months ago. And when I told her you were coming on, she's like, I showed you her. I was like, no, bitch. I know who Anna is.
Who gets the credit now? I don't know.
Me.
Which Crawford sister?
Well, you get the credit.
Oh, thank you.
You deserve the credit.
Well, I hope you don't need my advice, but
I don't now because I'm in a very happy, healthy relationship. But younger me needed your advice.
Younger me needed my advice too.
Yeah. It's so, well, first and foremost, you're a content creator, but what were you doing before this?
What wasn't I doing? No,
That's a good question.
I spent my 20s doing every odd job under the sun. I was trying to be an actress at the time. So I left NYU, 4 years of private college, to then go and try to become what my dad would call a bohemian. No. I really tried to make it a living
Yes.
in film and TV. And while I was doing that, I did every job under the sun. I was a personal assistant to a woman on the Upper West Side. That was my first job actually out of college. I got fired from that. Then I sold wedding videos at a wedding video production company. Then I worked at a building violation services company.
Damn.
My life is just proof that you can rebrand yourself endlessly.
What's your sign?
A Libra.
I knew it. People are going to say that I was going to say that I knew it no matter what sign it was, but I was like, this is such Libra activity.
Really?
Rebrand. Why not?
I know.
Do something else.
Every failure is an opportunity to rebrand yourself.
It's so true.
That's kind of the motto I had to take in life, not the one that I wanted to take. But then the career that I ended up working in for a while that sustained me during that period was I was a real estate broker. And I did that in the city, and it was actually an amazing job for somebody like me because everybody at my company knew that I was also a struggling actress. So anytime I needed to go and audition or work when I booked a gig, they would be okay with that. And it was just a very flexible job. I kind of worked for myself, but had a really great team. And then all of that went to shit in the pandemic.
Girl.
So I turned 30 in the middle of the pandemic, and we left the city because my husband works in Connecticut, and he was doing the reverse commute. So he's getting on the train every day to go to Connecticut. And we were like, we should probably just move there so you don't have to expose yourself to COVID. And had to leave my job. And then I was like, do I really want to get my license again in Connecticut? Because, here you have to get a license in every state.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't really want to do real estate for the rest of my life, because I remember looking at all these people in my office in New York who were so passionate about real estate and building their teams and building their businesses. And for me, it was a means to an end.
Yeah. You're like, I want to be an actor.
Right. And I think, here's what it was, is that I liked real estate, but I didn't love that there was no creative aspect to it for me. So I was always trying to find that happy medium between something that would make me money, but something that would always also be creatively fulfilling.
Yeah.
And so I turned 30 and I was like, I'm going to start a WordPress when everyone was getting on TikTok. This was 2020. TikTok was coming up. It was still the 5-second dance reels, dance videos,
like
and
Musical.ly merger.
Yes, all of that. And my millennial ass was like, I'm going to get on TikTok, or I'm going to get on WordPress. So I started a blog and I started Instagram, and I did it for 2 years to nothing, basically. So I first started off as a home decor blogger. Then I tried to do fashion content, and none of it worked until I posted my first TikTok about dating and relationships and just finding your worth as a young single something woman also trying to find a partner. And that went viral pretty quickly. And I was like, we're going to pivot. We're going to rebrand. This is what I'm going to do now. And it's been a wild 2 years, but I'm very, very grateful for it.
It's crazy that it's only 2 years since you started that.
TikTok. Yeah. September 1st, 2022 was when I went viral.
And yet I see your face on my FYP every time I scroll.
Thank you. I hope to stay there.
You will, because it just, I think that it resonates with a lot of young people, young women especially. Like, the things that you talk about are so real, and it's tough love, but it's like what I do. It's like, it's tough love, but you need to hear it.
Yes.
Like, listen up.
Well, you can't change your life if you don't face your life. That's what I was thinking. So
yeah.
So many people are wondering why they're stuck where they don't want to be. It's because they won't acknowledge where they are.
It's so real. My trainer always says, when you're tired of getting hit by the bus, you'll move.
Exactly.
Whenever you're sick of getting hit by the bus, you'll move. And it's like, damn.
But sometimes the bus has to hit you in a certain way. And I think about this all the time because I had a girlfriend in college who literally went back to the same guy no short of 12 times.
Oh my God.
And every time she would be like, this is it. This is finally it. I don't feel good. He doesn't make me feel good. We had a blow up fight again. And what finally did it was her dad passed away towards the end. And instead of comforting her, he was like, I feel like you're not really present right now and you're just thinking about yourself. And I really want you to be like an active participant in this relationship. And she was like, bro, my dad just died.
Yeah.
And then she finally saw. But you know what I mean? It's like, and she'll say to me still, she's like, I can't believe it took me that long to get here. But she really had to see how selfish she was in a way that she couldn't make any excuses for before she left. But that's how all of us learn. We all learn the hard way. I mean, I've had to learn the hard way so many times.
Well, that's why I wanted to ask, because you started TikTok and started immediately talking about dating and relationships, but you're married.
Yeah.
Happily married.
Yes.
I'm assuming.
Yes.
The ring is gorgeous.
Thank you.
I love it so much. What made you want to talk about relationships specifically? And like, did you have to talk to your husband about like, hey, by the way, I'm basically telling all the women on TikTok, like, you deserve better than these crusty ass men, but I love you.
Right? You would think, no, it's funny. I had always been super open with him about my past and who I dated, and we would talk about it. So by the time I started talking about it on TikTok, he already knew everything. And he knows more than what TikTok knows. We've just always had that relationship. And I find relationships so interesting because of what it reveals in all of us. And so we would talk about it in some kind of detached way, because I always think like the people who can't talk about their past are the ones who aren't over it. So my trolls love to be like, oh my God, she's not over this guy. He rejected her.
They always say shit like that.
Because people want you to be unhappy.
Yeah.
They want to believe you're not happy.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Right? Because it's like, for me, I'm like, I think that the people who are not willing to talk about everything that happened in the past, they're not over it. They can't rehash it. I will talk about my exes all day, every day. I don't actually talk a lot about my marriage and what's going on currently, because that's my life, and you got to keep some separation.
Yeah.
So, that's why I don't talk about him. Some people don't even realize I'm married because it's just like everything works. There's no need to kind of put my life on public display in that way in the present moment. And also, he didn't choose to live this public life. I did.
Yeah.
But he's more than okay with it. And look, everybody's been there, whether you're married, in a relationship, or single.
Yeah.
I have so many married women who follow me who are like, I'm super happy right now, but I've been there. And this is just so relatable. We've all been there.
Yeah. No, it's very true. That's why like when you watch shows or you listen to music and you can identify with a lyric or a scene or something. I watched One Day on Netflix. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
I watched it a long time ago, but I just saw the video that I posted come back up of like me watching it and me crying to it. And that's not my dating experience at all right now. Like, my life, fucking happy, soft life girl. But the shit that she went through, I was like, I know that girl. Like, you still feel...
It's the trauma.
It's the trauma. You can still identify with it even though you're over it. But I find it so fucking funny when I post, anything, clips from Relationshit or whatever. And it's mostly the dusty men from like the fucking crust of the earth who emerge like little fucking maggots, and they come out and they're like, that's why you'll never get a man. And then I'll be like, but I'm in a happy relationship. And they'll be like, well, that's why I'll never marry you. And I'm like, okay, well.
But there's always going to be, because then it's like, well, I'm married. It's like, well, for now.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Exactly. It's
talk
like,
to me in 6 years.
It never ends.
I'm like, why can't you just stop wishing people to be unhappy?
Because they're fucking miserable.
You know what the worst part is too, is when I see some of them have just no profile picture or anything.
Yeah.
Some of them are stupid enough to just troll me from their actual personal accounts. And it'll always be something in their bio like love everybody and kindness. And the worst is when, and I've had this happen a couple times, when they have a photo holding their daughter or something in the photo.
Oh, I love when the wife's in the photo, because I can always be like, I feel so bad for your wife. She must fucking hate her life as much as she hates you, and I hate you.
Or she's just brainwashed herself.
Right. Which is even worse.
So many women are co-conspirators in their own misery. And I know that because I've been that woman who's tried to brainwash herself into not being single. Because you just think, well, what is it? Stockholm syndrome?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's what it is with a lot of these women. It's like, oh, you know, you're going to protect me as long as I brainwash myself into believing that your way is the only way.
Yeah. I've had some of the wives and girlfriends jump in the comments too to like defend their man. I'm like, girl, this is so low vibrational for you to be in these comments with this. What? Like, I thought you could do better, and actually, now that I'm looking at you both together, you deserve each other.
No, you deserve each other.
It's disgusting. I can only imagine the comments that you get but it's crazy that those are the comments that come with teaching women how to advocate for ourselves a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think what it is, I've had some followers DM me and say, your videos came up on my feed for months and I would always ignore you, and I really didn't like what you had to say, and then something happened. He broke up with me, or I finally left, and I realized that the only reason I didn't want to watch your videos is because they were the truth. And the truth is really tough.
Yeah.
The truth is very tough. But for me, the only thing that has ever freed me was the truth. And I remember talking about this in a video, and somebody was like, oh, how could you have so little self-confidence? But I was like, no, it was true, because I remember I dated a guy in my 20s and he left me because I wasn't good enough for him, because he wanted to be with a woman who had clout. He left me not for a social media influencer, but like he left me and eventually went on to date somebody very well known and beautiful. And I was like, and I looked at that, and I think anybody can be like, oh, you look at that moment and you're like, oh, I wasn't good enough. I feel bad about myself. But I looked at that and I was like, I wasn't good enough for him. It's all right. I get it. You left me for that. She's great. And I'm going to go become great on my own. It's independent. I'm in my own sphere. But I think so many women are like, you know, it's like, if you are not good enough for somebody, that just means you're not in the same playing field. Okay. Go find your own playing field. I have no problem saying that. It's just like, I found somebody that I was good enough for. And ironically, I became a better version of myself, and I became good enough for me. So that's what matters. You know,
it's like being equally yoked. Like, there are bad yolks. You ever crack an egg open and the shit looks terrible?
Yeah.
Or the egg is clearly,
There's like a weird green spot in the middle.
And you're like, yeah, that's not your yolk, babe.
Yeah.
You deserve the prettiest. Aren't yolks supposed to be like orange? Like, they're not even supposed to be yellow.
Yeah, I know. What is that? Is that because we pump too many chemicals into our chickens?
Girl, we're fucked. I have no idea. It's so bad. It's all so bad. I have no idea. But you deserve like whatever yolk is made in the most beautiful chicken coop in like Germany, like somewhere where there's nothing touching it, no whatever, no antibiotics, free range.
Exactly.
You deserve that yolk.
Vegetarian grass-fed chickens. I don't know. It's like
the chickens are pet every morning promptly at 6:30
yeah.
on the dot. Like, you deserve that.
Exactly.
So you're just not equally yoked.
Yeah.
That's a nice way of saying you're a piece of shit and I'm not. Well, the people need your advice. They get it on TikTok all the time, but the Relationshit besties have questions and you have answers. I know you do.
We hope.
You do. You do. I see you all the time. So are you ready to give some advice?
Yeah.
Okay. What is your vibe on friends with benefits as you wait for the right one to come in?
Me personally, and look, everyone's different. So that is the caveat to all of my advice. But me personally, I could never do it because if I am attracted enough to a man to sleep with him, I want to be with him in some capacity. I don't really believe in friends with benefits. Do I know women that have successfully had casual physical relationships with men and not been really brutalized emotionally by them? Sure.
Yeah.
That was just never me. And I urge you as a woman to be honest with yourself as to what you really want, because I think so many women are bored. And so in the interim, instead of being single and reading a book or doing anything, improving yourself, they think, I'm just going to do this before I meet my husband. And in actuality, it's a distraction.
That's what I always say.
Yes.
It's a distraction.
That time you're spending with your friends with benefits, hookup buddy that's literally going nowhere because he told you 8 million times, it's time you could be spending on an app at a running club. I hear that's what everyone's doing these days, joining running clubs,
Not me,
right?
But
yeah. So
someone.
Right.
Somebody's running.
Everybody's joining running clubs to find love because apparently they're sick of the dating apps and that's what they do now. And I was like, that seems like a lot of effort. But it's fine. I used to go running after a breakup to like find myself, but I guess now you could just go find love at a running club.
Yeah.
So be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of women fool themselves into thinking they can do it because they're like, well, anything he can do, I can do better. Right? It's like, we're not men.
Yeah.
And acting like one doesn't give us the upper hand. There's no shame in saying, I want the soft life. I want the emotional connection. I don't want to have sex before there's a commitment on the table. That's not you being weak. That's you embracing your femininity.
Yeah.
And realizing that that's important too.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. I'm someone also who, I don't even think the besties know this. I've never even kissed a guy that I didn't like that I didn't actually like and want to
You've
kiss.
never had a drunken make out at a club, at a bar?
Never.
Oh, good for you.
I just don't like people like that. Like I don't like, it's rare, with the exception of like my now boyfriend. I've never seen someone out and been like, oh my God, like I want you. Like it just doesn't come to me that naturally.
You need the emotional connection.
I wish I had that feeling when I was, young and in Europe and, dancing on tables and wanting to just like make a, no, like I have to have an emotional connection with the person in order to even feel that. Like I don't want anyone strange kissing me or touching me in ways that I don't like.
That's fair. That's great.
That's just me personally.
Yeah, exactly.
But I understand the feeling of like, oh, okay, like I'm bored. I want to text my ex hookup person or like whoever I actually did like because I want cuddles and it's cold outside.
Right.
I can get it. However, I think that we have to be cognizant of, are you texting them because like you just want cuddles and it's cold? Or are you texting them because like you miss them and you want to be with them and you're trying to like gaslight yourself into thinking that this is friends with benefits, but it's actually just you want to be with them, but they already told you that they don't want to be with you.
Yes.
Also,
I would probably take it even a step further and say, if you want cuddles and it's cold and you want a warm body next to you, maybe just look into yourself and figure out how to replace that without a man in your life. Like I never ended up with a good guy until I figured out how to truly love being single and doing things alone. And I don't think we give enough credit to single women who love being single because there's still the whole childless cat lady trope out there. Like you can enjoy life alone. You don't need somebody to bear witness to your joy to make it exist. Like I always say to women, you need to go out and get comfortable dining alone. If you are a woman who makes her own cash monies and has disposable income and you want to go somewhere nice for dinner and you don't have anybody to go with, then take yourself out.
Yeah.
Don't sit at the bar. Sit at a table for two. Who cares?
Yeah.
Guarantee you a man would not feel weird about doing that. My husband would go out to dinner by himself all the time when he was single. He was like, yeah, I'd sit at the bar or whatever. If the bar wasn't available, I'd sit at a table just because It's Friday night. I don't have a date. I don't feel like sitting at home and getting takeout. Food is better sometimes at the restaurant than getting takeout.
Yeah, you want to have a cocktail you don't have to make yourself.
Exactly. You don't want to clean up a plate.
Yeah.
And, just get comfortable being alone.
Yeah.
There's no shame in being alone. There's actually a lot of power in it.
Yeah. I saw a question from someone asking, how do you get comfortable with being alone? Because people say that, like, you need to spend time alone, spend time with yourself, but they don't give you like a step-by-step, play-by-play on how to do that. But I totally agree with you. I did not end up in the happy relationship that I'm in until I realized that, like, having a boyfriend was not the end all be all for my life. It wasn't like, oh my God, I have to have a boyfriend in order to be a fulfilled version of myself. I realized that, like, I needed to actually feel more comfortable with being so uncomfortable with being by myself.
Right.
Because I was a person who was a serial monogamist and just always in relationships. Like, I had to come to terms with, like, oh, me being like a serial girlfriend is not actually, it's not that it's not a compliment, but it's actually not a compliment either, because it's like you're constantly in relationships. What does that say about you? Like, what does that say? What did that say about me that I always needed to be in a relationship?
And I'm the same exact as you. From the second I realized I like boys, was like always trying to find my husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what it said to me was that I was not comfortable with who I was, that I felt incomplete without somebody. And everybody has some sort of trauma that stems from.
Yeah.
People like to be like, oh, do you have daddy issues? I'm like, no, I don't actually have daddy issues. I have a great relationship with my parents. They raised me with a lot of love and self-respect, and they're the OG feminists. They had such an equal relationship. But I remember, for me, what it came from was I went to a very homogenous and white high school.
Mm.
And I grew up in the suburbs of Philly. I looked very different from everybody. And for most of my life, until I hit puberty, I felt very different and I felt ugly because of the way I looked and my skin color. And then I hit puberty, and all of a sudden, the boys who used to make fun of me 5 years ago were trying to be nice to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels good to be wanted.
Yeah.
It feels very good. And all of a sudden, I had a very tenuous definition of self-worth, because I was like, oh, I feel better about myself because somebody else wants me. And so I took that into college, even though by the time I went to college, NYU, super diverse. I felt really at home, had lots of different friends from all different walks of life. And then I took it into my 20s, even though I didn't need to anymore, because I had more to offer than just how I looked after I hit puberty.
Yeah.
But I just think it took so long for me to undo and unlearn the fact that my value lied in who wanted me. So that's why I never wanted to be alone, because it's like, oh, if I'm alone and nobody wants me, then I'm worthless. And for women, you talk about, okay, well, everybody talks about you got to get comfortable being alone. How do you do that? I think the way you do that is by figuring out what you're good at, what you have to offer the world outside of a relationship. And for me, it was honestly my real estate job saved my life, because I was really good at that job. And I knew it wasn't something I wanted to pursue long term, but it was the first job that gave me disposable income. I was making my own money. I had money to spend on things that I wanted to buy that weren't a necessity.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of agency and freedom in that, in being a woman in your 20s, making your own money, and maybe not making as much money as some of the guys I was dating, but being like, okay, if you don't want me, I'm good. I can take care of myself.
Yes. Yes.
So that is a very actionable step you can take as a woman. If you want to feel good about being alone, figure out how to feel valuable and how to contribute to society on your own.
And I am so glad you bring this up, because I wanted to talk to you about this. I saw a video that you did where you were talking about the agency that comes with making your own money, and how, and we have to talk about this, because I feel like social media and society and songs, particularly my rap girlies, who I love, but like the whole idea of like, oh, make his pockets hurt, he needs to be paying your bills, he needs to be doing, unlike you, I do have daddy issues, and I am never gonna let a fucking man tell me when I get to eat, where I get to live, what I get to buy, how often I get to buy it. It's never gonna be me. I'm always going to have my own shit. And yes, I trust my man. Like, we share bills. I pay for my house that I own, that I worked hard for in LA. He pays all of our bills in New York. That's how we split it up, our bicoastal lifestyle. That's how we do it. He does his thing over here and we enjoy it. I do my thing over here and we enjoy it. But the thought that a man would be responsible for my livelihood and existence and accommodations, that's a no for me personally. And I've seen you talk about this before about, like, you know, we see it, the sprinkle effect. And like, I love a gift. I love that. But like, my whole life depends on you as a man being in it. Not for me.
There's a difference between dependency and just being kind to one another.
Yes.
And I think my whole point is that there is really no such thing as a free lunch, that very few of us get away with marrying the quote unquote rich guy, sugar daddy, whatever, and don't pay in some way for it. It might not be with money,
yeah,
but it will be with something else. And I've seen that happen time and time again. And my parents' greatest fear when I was in my 20s and struggling financially, and I was dating men that did very well and could take me out to dinners to places that I couldn't afford on my own. They were like, Anna, it's really fun that you're doing this, I'm sure, but like, you have to be really careful because there are some men out there who are going to see your financial position and think, I can control her.
Mm-hmm.
They don't necessarily want to take care of you. They want to control you, but it looks like they want to take care of you.
Yeah.
And that is a fine line to kind of distinguish between. And so what are you really giving up? I don't know a single woman who doesn't work at all and has never worked in the relationship who really has the final say in what they do in terms of where they move, what they do with the big expenses. Like, you know, I know women that have to ask their husbands if they even want to buy a bag or something fun. Like, and I'm not talking about like a Chanel bag or something, right? Just anything.
Yes.
I don't ask my husband to do anything.
Yes.
Likewise, he does not ask me to do anything. We're like, hey, we want to do this.
Yeah.
And we're on the same page.
It's a mutual respect, understanding. I think I have grown up in suburban, you know, areas, predominantly white areas where like
that's why we sound the way we do.
Right, exactly.
Let's be honest.
That's exactly why.
People get on the phone and then I say my last name and they're like, oh.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you sound like I used to get that all the time when I was a kid. They're like, oh, I had no idea you were Asian until I saw you. And you remember you take a source of pride in that and you're like, oh, that's so fucked up.
Yes.
But that's what we were taught growing up. And so now people are like, why do you sound white? Like I have my Asian girlfriends who grew up in SF and Long Island in Asian communities and they're like, you sound so white. And I'm like, yeah, because I grew up in fucking Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
What do you expect? You grew up in, you know?
From
you're
Potomac. I'm from right outside of DC.
Right.
And like, I think too, that is why my perception on money is a little bit different and just like finances. I just feel very strongly about it because I've seen the women who are taken care of. I've seen that. I haven't seen women struggling. I haven't seen it where I'm from. Like the women are very well taken care of, but the women are also very well controlled.
Yes.
And people don't get it because you see the basketball wife, you see the, you know, the wags, and you see the sugar baby and the whatever. You don't know that those bitches are on a fucking allowance.
Yes.
You don't know that everything that they have has been gifted to them and can be taken away at any given time, and that they do that. Yes. The men do that. I've seen them do that. I've seen the women who were friends with my mom show up on our front doorstep on holidays in tears with their children because the man took the cards away, took the car, told them, fend for yourself, just because he didn't like what she said, or just because he didn't like what she did or how she reacted to something. I'm just telling y'all.
Or how about this? I mean, I know family friends where after 40 years of marriage, the kids are gone. All of a sudden, you're in your 60s or 70s and the husband has been having an affair and he's leaving you. and you think, okay, well, at least I'll get some alimony. And you realize, oh, it was all debt. There is no money to go
There's
around.
no money.
And now you got to go back and you got to get a job that pays you minimum wage because you've been out of the workforce for 40 years and you don't have a dime to your name.
Yep.
And guess what? Yeah, you're entitled to 50% of the marital assets. 50% of very little is still 50% of very little. So that happens too.
Yeah.
And I think we'd all like to think we're not marrying an asshole when we marry one. Nobody goes into a marriage thinking this guy's going to screw me over, but statistically 50% of us will get screwed over. And so if you don't have a way to provide for yourself, then it's just a risk you're going to have to take. And look, hopefully you find a great guy who does take care of you and maybe he is controlling, but at the end of the day, you've got a good dynamic because that happens too. It's like, okay, just because he's controlling, look, there's pros and cons to each. I've seen that too. It's like he's controlling, he provides for you, but he's a good guy at the end of the day. And this is just how your marriage works. That can work too.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's the best case scenario. But if it's not, what's your plan B?
Yeah. If you like it, I love it. But you got to like it. If you hate your life, like I don't know what to tell you because I also know women whose husbands have died and they don't know anything about the finances of their household, how the money's coming in, what the passwords are, you know, the codes to the safe, where's the... You don't know who to contact. Right. You should know everything. If you are going to be in a situation like that, you should know all of the details.
Well, it's also like I know women who brag about, oh, I never look at any of the bills.
Girl, you better look at them motherfucking bills.
Look at a fucking bill. Look at the statement.
At those bills.
Not only that, you should know where your money is being invested.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Because it's not like you don't work.
Yeah.
You work inside the home.
Yes.
You're married.
Yes. Stay-at-home moms, by the way, should be compensated.
I know.
That is a job.
That is such a job, but it's also like figure out how to, don't just rely on the man to grow the money, right? That's why I love Ellevest. They're, encouraging women to really know how to take control of their finances because we're not taught that. And we're not taught that because we're not taught that that's valuable to our self-worth as a woman growing up, especially you and I millennials. I think it's different now for kids growing up, in this era. But men are taught from a very young age that your money, your job, all of that is kind of tied to your self-worth. And so they value that.
Yeah.
And so I think it's about teaching young girls and young women that your worth lies in your net worth.
Yes. Yes. I totally agree with that. 1000% agree. Oh, what advice would you give to someone that has never dated?
Start somewhere. And it might not be pretty, but you have to start somewhere. And I like to equate this to, okay, I should send you my first Instagram story I ever posted 4 years ago. Because I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, I had no idea how to talk to camera. I had that crazy ass filter on.
We all had the filter. We all had the filter.
That basically just made me look like a completely different person.
Yeah.
I mean, the cosmetic surgery, whatever.
Yeah.
It was like
a little nip tuck, a little contour.
Oh my God.
a little lipstick.
Little is generous, right?
Yeah.
The face slimming, whatever was happening.
Yeah, we've all been there.
It wasn't pretty, right? Yeah. And I failed and it didn't look good for 2 years, but eventually I got here. Now this is my career. And if I wasn't willing to get ugly, it would have never gotten pretty. It's like things have to get messy before they get clean.
Yeah.
And, I always think that whether something is a failure or a success, it depends on when you're measuring it. So I would have been a failure if I had stopped at that first Instagram story. I would have been a failure to everyone else if I'd stopped that first year, that second year. It only worked because I kept going until I succeeded. So when it comes to dating, if you go on a first date and you don't like it or it's weird or whatever, don't quit. Just keep going. Eventually you'll figure it out, but nobody can live that for you. So you have to be the one to get out there. Start anywhere. It has never been easier to find a date. It is really difficult to find a relationship, but it's very easy to find a date.
Yeah.
So, and don't put too much pressure on yourself. It's supposed to be fun. And if it's not fun, maybe the next one will be. You'll learn something about yourself. Get comfortable with your discomfort.
Yes. I tell my sisters all the time, I'm like, every first date that you go on is not meant to be your husband. Like, it doesn't have to be.
Exactly.
Maybe it will be.
I mean, I tried to
but
make
maybe it won't. Yeah, of course. I mean, same. Like, I never even wanted to go on dates because I was like, ugh, like, if it's not going to be my husband, then who cares? Like,
Right.
why do I want to sit across the table from someone? And I would hate when my friends would be like, girl, it's a free meal. I don't actually need a free meal.
No.
I actually would pay triple so I don't have to have a free meal with somebody that I don't fucking like. But how do you know that you're not going to like them until you go on the date?
Exactly. Life must be lived. It's like my favorite quote by Rainer Maria Rilke. She said, at present, we must live the question. And I always think about that because I'm super anxious and I want to know the answer, but you got to live the question.
That just hit me.
Right.
That just hit me hard. That's actually very, fuck me. This is a random pivot.
Yeah.
Do you have kids or want kids?
We don't have kids. We do want a kid in the future.
You're going to be such a good mom. If
that's so funny.
I was like, if that's what you want.
You say that, because I am just not a kid person. I don't look at children and think, oh my God, I want one. I'm 34 now. And people always say, oh, you hit 30 and something shifts in you. And it never shifted in me.
Do you have siblings?
No. I'm an only child, and I have a super close relationship with my parents.
Yeah. And you have such like big sis energy.
Yeah, but because I had to be my own big sister.
That's
real. That's what it was, is that I remember always growing up wanting a big sister because I was the firstborn and my mom was like, do you want a sibling? And I'd be like, no, we're broke already. We can't feed another mouth. We can barely feed these 3 mouths, right? But I just was like, I wish I had a big sister. And I never did. So I guess had to become my own big sister. But big sisters are annoying sometimes too. I'm a big sister,
right? I'm very fucking annoying.
Right. Your younger
super
sisters
annoying.
Are like, stop preaching.
Oh, they do it all
whatever.
The time. But then it's also like, I feel like even as a big sister, my mom was like my big sister. She always gave me the tea. But it was the big brother that I felt like I needed in my life that now I feel like I can be a big sis and a big brother to my sisters. Because I'm like, let me give you guys the fucking game. Let me tell you what these men really figure. Think. Yes, exactly. And I grew up with, my biological father left when I was 5. That's another fucking story. And then my dad, who raised me, like, he never gave us the game. Like, he was like a business executive. He was just like working all the time. He didn't tell us what these fucking men are really up to. I had to learn that shit on my own.
But people didn't really talk about it back then.
And that's true too.
Right.
That's true too. It's just like, oh, like, yeah, mom met dad and that was it. I feel like, when I talk to men who like have sons, they're like, oh yeah, I tell my son about this time when I did this. And I'm like, so why don't you tell your daughters that? Right. Like, you need to tell your daughters that too. You can't just be thinking that our dads are like these perfect beings that never broke a heart. No, motherfucker.
Yeah.
My dad has 6 daughters, no sons. He broke a heart. Or 10. Tell us those stories. We want to know those stories. I think they need to overshare. My mom overshared with us. So like I got all of the big sis talks about like what to do, what not to do. This is how it should feel. This is how it shouldn't feel. Like my mom was very open with that, but like I needed the
male perspective.
The male perspective.
Yeah.
So, okay. Someone asked, ooh, I'm burnt out on dating. Should I take a break or keep going?
I never stopped, even when I was burnt out. And I don't want to, tell you to do something you don't want to do, but I kind of think about it in working out. Like a lot of times I don't want to get up and work out. And eventually I feel better after I do. Like getting up early to go for a run is not fun. And that's how I approach dating, is that I didn't really want to go on all these first dates. I didn't want to keep swiping, but I kept doing it because the ends justify the means.
Yeah.
Look, it's hard. Nobody's saying that it's not. But if your goal is monogamous marriage, then there is nothing you can do other than to keep going.
Yeah.
So take a break when you need to. I think there's rest and everything. It's like even when people running a marathon, they need to slow down every now and then. It's like take a break, but don't stop. Because if you take yourself out of the game, it's actually just going to be that much harder to get into the game.
Yeah.
So back to this marathon analogy, I don't know why this is coming up, but I ran one marathon in my life, which was very uncharacteristic and off-brand for me
girl.
because I am not athletic, but I did run the New York City Marathon in 2016. And I remember I didn't stop once. I would slow down to get water at each of the water stations, but I never walked it because I knew if I stopped,
I'll
I
go
would
home.
never
I could
start.
go home.
Yeah.
Calling Uber.
I'm calling.
I'm at home actually, and I have pho on the way.
Yeah. I'm getting airlifted out of there.
Literally eating soup.
Yeah, because momentum is important.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like I never got off the horse until I got to my destination because I just knew if I got off the horse, it's so much harder to get back onto it.
You have a good analogy for everything.
Yeah, I don't.
You are a big sister. You're hiding your little sister somewhere in your house.
Me, my inner child is me. I'm the little sister.
That's actually a really, really good point, because I think that it is exhausting, but it could be that one date that you skipped out on that like could have been your person. You never fucking know.
And that's how I met my husband. I didn't want to go on a first date with him. I was tired from work.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you meet on an app?
We did. We met on Bumble.
I met my boyfriend on Raya. I still think the apps, see guys, the apps can work.
They can work. It's a numbers game.
Yeah.
And I also think people like to complain about them more than they actually feel bad about them. Most of my friends met on apps. So,
and they're married?
And they're married and they're happy, or they're in long-term relationships. Because if I have to join a running club or pick up pickleball to go meet my husband, I don't have time for that.
No.
Not while you're trying to build a career and you're also trying to have a social life and keep up with your family. Like, I just can't pick up a hobby for the sake of meeting a man.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
If I want to pick up a hobby, it's because I want to do it.
Yes.
But just so I can meet a guy, like, ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah, no. And now I'm resentful because now I'm sweaty and I'm meeting you. And like now you think that this is like my aura, and it's actually not.
Exactly.
This is not my aesthetic.
Exactly.
I'm a bad bitch. I'm not meant to be sweating and covered in pickleball.
Right.
Bullshit. I don't even know what that it consists of, but you know, no shade to people who like pickleball. If you like pickleball, good for you, girl. How do you deal with betrayal in a relationship, and how do you navigate it with grace?
Betrayal in a relationship before marriage, if we're talking about cheating, that's it. That was the end of the relationship. I don't believe in going back to somebody who betrayed your trust prior to marriage. In a marriage, it's different. You made a vow to figure it out, and I'm not saying you can't leave, but it also depends on when in the marriage. If he cheats on you a year into your marriage, it's probably also over. 10, 15 years into a marriage and things are a little bit stale and they've gone south, I don't know how I'll feel. Like, I understand there are couples who are not faithful to each other 20 years into a marriage and they get back together because they were like, this was a momentary lapse of judgment. I understand that you have a foundation to build off of. But let's talk about before marriage. You're building your foundation.
Yeah.
And he just took a jackhammer to it.
Yeah.
So
there's no foundation.
There's no foundation anymore.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do? Try and build it back up yourself? He's over in the corner actively tearing it down.
Yeah.
And you are trying to build it up. So just cut your losses where they are and move on from that. The grace is in you leaving. The grace is not in you hanging on.
I'll be fucking damned if I'm staying with a boyfriend that cheated on me.
But people do.
You're a boyfriend. You're not even like, I love my boyfriend, but he's just a boyfriend. Like, until you're my husband, you're just a boyfriend. They're replaceable when they do shit like that. Right. I'm sorry. And to me, I believe in divorces if you're like very unhappy, but the realistic part of my brain, the big brother part of my brain says the same thing that you're saying of like, if we've been married 20 something years, when you see couples who have been together for decades long, there's shit in that you don't know about, you know? And I feel like being older now, being in my 30s as well, like when you hear, or you know, those couples on the street interviews that people will do, like, are you guys a couple? How long you been? And they're like, we've been married for 40 years. And it's like, all the comments are like, oh my God, 40 years. It's so beautiful. You have no fucking idea what those relationships consist of. And that is terrifying to me because I hate the thought of like somebody that I spent 20 something years of my life with could betray me or I could betray them. It's not something that I've ever done. So I don't see that being an issue, but I'm a different person than I was 20 years ago.
Right.
Your relationship changes over time. 20 years into a marriage, can somebody do something stupid? I fucking hate that, but I'm assuming yes. Everyone is capable of something, and I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah, and you just don't know. It's like neither one of us, I'm newly-ish married. I've been with my husband for a total of 6.5 years. Like, we're still talking in halves, right? That's how little time we've been together, comparably to a lot of people who've been married for so long. And I have no idea. I don't believe infidelity is the end all be all in a marriage. In a long-term marriage, 10 plus years, whatever, I don't think that it has to end the relationship. I do think it has to end the relationship prior to marriage.
I agree with that.
It's so much easier to replace a boyfriend in your life than it is to replace a husband that you are legally and financially entangled with.
People don't really understand how deep marriage actually is.
It gets really unsexy, let me tell you that.
And it's like this is by law. Like, this isn't some shit that we just drew up on DocuSign and fucking emailed to each other. This is some shit. Marriage is some shit.
It is.
As an unmarried person to a married person.
No, I mean, look, marriage is some shit, and it's especially some shit when it goes south.
Yeah.
When everything's going well, it's fine. Nothing really happened between me and my husband when we got married because it was just a piece of paper, and we were already living together at the time. We'd already bought a house together, which is terrible financial advice. I don't suggest you do that, but COVID, desperate times call for desperate measures. So our lives didn't change, but I know it'll change if we get divorced.
Yeah.
It'll get real messy.
Divorce is a motherfucker.
Yeah.
The shit is expensive and it gets nasty.
Yeah.
And you just have to be for real about the people that you're people that I know have been engaged a bunch of just fucking figure it out if that's even the person that you want to be with. Don't even cross that line if they're already showing you that they cannot be committed to you, unless you just don't care. If you don't care about the commitment, do you, bitch? I don't care.
But so many women marry the guy that they think, I have some question marks in there.
Yeah.
And I have girlfriends who are getting divorced right now after not very many years of marriage. And it's because they all had a little bit of doubt prior to marriage. And that little bit of doubt is just going to keep eating away at you.
Yeah.
Marriage is, they say having a baby is like getting a tattoo on your face. I think you should think of marriage like that. Because if you think of marriage like that, you might think twice about who you're marrying.
That's so real. And you're getting their name tattooed on your face.
Exactly. I mean, look, there's a lot of great things that laser skincare can remove these days. So I'll give them that. But still, you might have some scarring.
There's always going to be a scar. There's always going to be an outline.
Oh, yeah.
There's always going to be an outline. Okay, last one. What do you do if he ticks a lot of boxes but is emotionally unavailable and I don't feel emotionally safe?
That's the only box that matters, okay? That is the bare fucking minimum.
What are the other boxes that could possibly matter?
But they're
he's tall?
He's tall, he's hot, we have great sex, blah, blah, blah. He's got a great job, all that.
No.
None of that stuff, okay? No. That's the bare minimum. That's your foundation. Back to that foundation analogy. He's a beautiful house made of wood and sticks and a gorgeous kitchen with your wolf range on no foundation. So you step into the house and you fall into the ground.
It's on quicksand.
Exactly. So absolutely not.
What are we talking about?
And the only reason you're asking us this question is because you don't think you deserve the emotionally available, connected man and all those other boxes he's checking.
One thing that I have realized is that emotional safety is actually all that I care about.
Yes.
Other than obviously fidelity, I care about that. But that's a part of emotional safety.
Right.
I need to feel like I can be my complete self with you. I had never, until I met my boyfriend, felt like I could be, I remember I wrote this down in my journal or something like that. And I had said, I just want to be with someone who I can be the person that I am with my sisters around them too. I've never felt like that before, where I could just be silly and sing weird songs and make ugly faces and not think that they're going to look at me and be like, oh my God, this bitch is fucking crazy. No, I want to be able to do, when my sisters and I are together, we're singing fucking Wicked soundtrack before the movie came out. Just want to say, we've been doing this for years. Singing Rent, acting crazy, just doing whatever the fuck we want to do, talking in accents. I don't know, whatever we want to do, whatever I can do in front of them, I wanted to be able to do in front of the man that is going to be my husband. And so much of my dating past, I didn't realize was me like putting on a mask to try to impress someone or like be this perfect version of a woman that I think that they would want. Fuck all of that.
Well, it's about finding a man who thinks you're beautiful even when you're not glamorous.
Yes.
And I really believe in that.
Yeah.
I believe in the man that you want to leave the party with more than you want to go to the party with. Because like there is nothing better, especially when you're married and now I'm out in the suburbs. I don't want to get dressed up on a Friday. I just want to get ugly, sit in my comfy.
Yes.
God, those things are amazing, you know.
Oh my God, I have one. Best.
So good. On the couch with my husband watching Dateline, reminding myself that there are really fucked up people out there that are not us.
This is the dream. That's
goals.
Marriage goals to me.
Goals.
Who can I watch Dateline with?
Exactly.
That's what we need to be fucking thinking about. Like, you don't need to be thinking about the guy who doesn't fucking text you back and you don't know where he is on a weekend and he doesn't compliment you. I dated a guy for years that never gave me a compliment. Do you know how crazy that is?
That is actually wild.
I just didn't think it was important to me.
Never told you look good?
Nope. I remember on my birthday one year, his friend was in town. His friend ended up being gay. Maybe that's why he gave me a really nice compliment. Like he was one of the good ones.
No skin in the game. No skin
he
in the game.
was one of the good ones. No skin in the game. He hadn't come out at the time, but it was my birthday. We were about to go out. I had like spent all, night getting ready and like got this dress from House of CB that was really cute. And like, I was so excited for him to see me.
You
and I like
some coins on that too.
Dropped some coins on that. And I didn't even have money like that at the time. And I walked into the room and I'm like looking at him, looking at me, thinking like he's going to give me a compliment. He says nothing. And his friend was like, Kamie, you look gorgeous. You look so beautiful. Like, happy birthday. You look amazing. And then he and I both look at my boyfriend at the time like, you're next, motherfucker. Actually, you were first, but you missed the bus. So like, hop on now while you can. And he was like, oh yeah, you look nice.
That is some shit that he needed to unpack in therapy. But you accepted it because I bet you're hyper independent and you're like, I don't need that.
Yeah.
I didn't need it from my dad who wasn't around.
Yep.
I don't need it from you.
I don't need a compliment
from myself.
I know I look good.
Yeah.
Fuck all of that.
Yeah.
My man now, I actually don't like that he does, but also adore that he does give me compliments when I look the fucking worst.
Oh my God.
When I look stunning and when I look the fucking worst.
Right. He's like, you're so beautiful. Like me, like 3 days before my period bloated. I'm like, I'm so fat. He's like, you're not at all. You look great. I'm like, no.
You're a fucking liar.
No, you are a liar.
But if you didn't tell me that, we would have a problem.
Right.
Of course. I'm so over. Anna, thank you so much for joining us. Tell everyone where they can find you. Tell them where they can find the podcast because they need the brutally honest advice.
Thank you so much for having me. You can find me on my social channels at maybe both are my handles and Brutally Anna wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.